From Sky News today, some breaking news. Huw Edwards has grew himself a creepy little weird pedo moustache. It's a bit weird, that, isn't it? You can see why it's headline news. Why would any man willingly choose to grow a sort of weird, creepy, pedo-looking, what's that? Huw Edwards, former BBC presenter, given suspended sentence over indecent images of children. Oh, so that's why he grew his tash. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a fantastic story. Not because, obviously, it's a horrific crime and the amount of suffering and pain and abuse that goes into creating those images would curl the toes of even the most stalwart, stoic of gentlemen. No, it's because, as usual, it's proving the likes of Owen Jones and Jonathan Pye and all these lefty sparrow-born do-gooders, it's proving them to be the deranged, mentally ill ideologues that we have long known them to be, because the hypocrisy of these people knows no bounds. There's been lots of good examples of it, hasn't there, of late? The amount of people defending Keir Starmer, not declaring all of his gifts, and making out as if it's totally fine. Left-wing tweeters saying things like, oh, it's totally fine. What we should do is we should set up a special fund for them to buy clothing because, after all, they do represent us on the world stage. If that fat albino jellyfish Boris Johnson had done the exact same thing, those people would be frothing at the mouth for months. At least people like us, dear listeners, attempt to be remotely impartial. I'm appalled when a Conservative or a Reform MP gets snidey little gifts off the slithering snakes that back them from the shadows. It appalls me regardless of party, but for some reason, anyone that calls themselves woke is incapable of putting two and two together when anybody that shares their political opinions does anything reprehensible, no matter how bad it is, even up to and including full-blown noncery. So these people are repellent and, well, they're incapable of feeling shame, but if they could, they should. All right, rant over. Let's cover the story, shall we? The disgraced newsreader Huw Edwards is told that his reputation is in tatters. Yeah, cheers for that, Captain Obvious, as he was sent 41 illegal images by a convicted diddler of the children. Yeah, no, his reputation's in tatters. Yeah, weird that. It's probably not as in tatters as his ring piece, the filthy bugger, because I don't even want to think about what he gets up to in the comfort of his own home. What is shocking about this is, as usual, the non-existent two-tier justice system. Yeah, it definitely doesn't exist. 6 months suspended, so he's not going to jail. Not going to jail for promoting and encouraging and purchasing images of children being tortured. You don't go to jail for that. But what do you go to jail for? Well, we know what you go to jail for. You go to jail for being rude online. You go to jail for printing reasonable, polite words on stickers without using any foul language and saying things like, it's okay to be white. It's okay to be black. It's okay to have a tan. It's okay to be ginger. Nobody would ever assume that saying those words in a sentence would constitute criminal behaviour. But in the United Kingdom they do. Oh yeah, jail for stickers, a telling off for the ritual abuse of children. You couldn't make it up, could you? I can't believe what I have to read going through these websites for this channel. I cannot believe what I read every day. If you were to build a time machine and go back to the 1970s and tell them, you know what's going to be happening in 2024, mate? People are going to be going to prison for a long time for putting stickers on lampposts. But people aren't going to be sent to prison for being full-blown, hello little boy, do you want to see some puppies? Bless you, my child. Get in the back of the van, close your eyes and stroke the strange earless rabbit. Those type of people, they're going to be let off. They're going to be wandering the streets. They're going to be sat massaging the thighs at a bus stop just across the road from a primary school. That's what's going to be happening in 2024. You couldn't make it up, could you? And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to segue into a story about Jeremy Clarkson, because this really perfectly illustrates what I'm talking about these people being completely blind and incapable of objectivity. The trust the science crowd are incapable of rational objectivity. Look what Jeremy Clarkson tweeted out today. He was rolling his eyes at a story printed by, I believe it was The Independent, obviously it's going to be them, whereby this sparrow-born soy boy says the former trio of Clarkson, Hammond and May are parting ways after 2 decades. Could it be that the British public have stopped buying what they're selling? Do you see what I'm saying about mental illness? Right? They cannot observe the world around them rationally. And this is why me, a former Liberal, have took 10 steps to the right over the last few years. I cannot bring myself to be so illogical and irrational. It's my personality type. I want to see data. I want to see facts. I want to see logical arguments. And these lunatics with a straight face write that when, I think you all know this story, I'd never heard of Clarkson's Farm back in the day. The first time I'd heard of that show was when I was visiting the UK. I think it was one of the last times I went. And my old pal Blue Van Man hit me up and said, do you want to come and do a podcast with me? And I said, yeah, go on then. And when I met him, he brought me some Hawkstone beer. And I said, oh, I've never heard of that. Where's that come from? And he told me, oh yeah, it's Jeremy Clarkson's beer and his show's really good and you should watch it. So I drank the beer and then I watched the show and I was very pleasantly surprised at how wholesome and amusing and entertaining it was to watch people farming. And that show, if you aren't aware, has smashed ratings records all across the world. It is one of the most popular shows ever made about agriculture. In fact, it probably is the most popular show ever made about agriculture. And Top Gear was wildly popular when Clarkson was on it. And the Grand Tour is wildly popular because Clarkson's on it. And it's just crushed a multi-billion-dollar Amazon series called The Rings of Power that nobody with any sense wants to watch because it's just more commie gibberish masquerading as a fantasy story. And after all of that happens, this bloke, a professional journalist, will write a piece genuinely saying with a straight face, oh, the British public aren't buying what Clarkson's selling. Clarkson, probably the most popular TV show of the last 4 or 5 years, and his pub is now ram-packed and it's full every day, and his farm shop is ram-packed and there's thousands of people visiting them every day because it is wildly popular and everybody loves it. And that bloke writes that story with a straight face. This is what I'm talking about. They are ideologically possessed and they cannot see reality as it is, which is why in their world, it's perfectly acceptable for Huw to lube up and fling himself round his grot, fapping himself senseless over pictures of children being tortured. And that's not that big of a deal, but disagreeing with them politically, that's a big deal, and you have to go to prison for it. Tell me, with a straight face, after digesting that fact, that these people aren't full-blown communists, and if they had the ability to lock us all in a salt mine and work us to death, they wouldn't take it. Tell me that, with a straight face, after seeing what happens to the likes of Sam Mellier and comparing that with what happens to the likes of Huw Edwards. There is no logic or rationale to it that can make sense to any even remotely fair-minded viewer. Whether you're left-wing, right-wing, centre-left, centre-right, whatever. It's ludicrous. I like to think even the most devout, normal Labour voter would agree with me that people who do things like that should be in prison for a very, very long time, and people that disagree politely with you on policy or put stickers on things shouldn't be in prison for a long time. So, that's just my opinion. As usual, there's me 2 cents. If you want to disagree, please do, because I love arguing with the mentally ill. I frequently do it for pleasure, go to the local loony bin and poke people with a stick for my own sick pleasure. So please put your comments down below and I will read them and split my sides laughing at some of them. All right? Thanks for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you had a good weekend and I will see you all tomorrow. Take it easy. Toodle pip.